everyone, so today I'm going to go over the data quality checking of the MBB study data. So this is a little bit similar to the data entry portion, except for this is more concerned with looking at the data that we have and making sure that it's all complete. So you're going to open the participant log, which has been moved to a Google Sheet so that we can all collaborate on this more easily. And then you're going to go to the tab that says Data Quality Check. And I'm going to go through this first example with you guys. So this was a participant that we ran 2 weekends ago. And basically each person is going to do a few different checks. So for each participant, there'll be 2 checks. So it'll be checked by check number 1 and check number 2. And the second person, someone else will do the second check and the date. And this is just to make sure that everything is the same and that we catch any mistakes that we might make. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to find the Manila folder in the filing cabinet, and you're just going to make sure that a few of the things on here are in fact in the folder. Okay, so I have the folder in front of me, and I can see that the lab session checklist for the child is here, and it's complete, and there's no notes. And that doesn't mean no notes on the form, it means I have no notes about the checklist. Like if it was missing, if it was gone, if it wasn't filled out at all, I might put it's blank or something like that, but this is just basically saying that I have no notes on the child lab session checklist. Okay, then for the parent, it's in here as well. It's filled out, everything's good, so I'm going to put complete. Then I'm going to find the memory intrusion note sheet. It's also there. So I'm going to put complete. The KSAD summary diagnostic checklist is in here, and I'm checking to make sure that it's completely filled out and it looks good, so I'm going to put complete there. Oops. Okay, and then the WASI is here. And the Wyatt is also here. And the Wyatt worksheet is also here. Okay, now I'm going to do some checks on the Dropbox folder. So I'm going to open up MBB17's data folder on the Dropbox. And I'm going to go into the info folder and make sure that the lab session checklist is filed. And I'm going to open them and make sure that the files in there are actually what we want. And then the parent one, that looks good. We're actually not doing this folder checklist anymore, so I'm just going to get rid of that template file. Then I'm going to go into the FedEx tracking, and I can see that we have not saved this. So I'm not sure if someone has it and they just haven't uploaded it, so I'm going to put incomplete. Photo is missing. And that will let someone know that we need to find the photo, or at least make a copy of the number so that we know if we are missing their package, how we can track it. Okay, then the DBS consent form, which is a new form that's actually going to go in here. I haven't made a folder for that yet. I added it to the template here, So that hasn't been done for this, so I'm going to put okay, then I'm going to go into the KSAT screen. I'm going to make sure that the screen file is there and that it's the right file. And that the diagnostic checklists are there and it's the right file. And if there was no checklists, if there was no supplements, I would put, since there's no supplements here, I'm going to put NA and then also none because I have no notes about it. Okay, so then I'm going to go and check some of the task files. So I'm going to go into tasks, behavioral, raw, and I'm going to make sure that there are 3 files here for the right tasks. Then conditioning, discrimination, and here we have a bunch of different files, so I've actually made a checklist for each one. So I'm going to make sure that there's 2 raw run 1 discrimination files, and I can see that there's these 2 here, so that's yes. Then I'm going to make sure that there's a J&D file for run 1, and there is. Then I'm going to make sure that there's 2 run 2 raw files, and there is. And one of those is a SciDat file and one is a CSV. Then I'm going to make sure that there is 1 run 2 J&D CSV file, which is right here. Then I'm going to make sure that there's 2 run 3 raw files, and I can see that. And I can already see the J&D one above that one. Okay, then I'm going to make sure there's 3 of these. Then I'm going to go into Halloween test and see that there's 3 of those. And if one of these tasks were missing, I would look and see if the task was completed by the participant. If the task was not completed, I would put NA and then no notes. If the task was completed and the file is missing, then we need to find it. So we need to put incomplete. Okay, so for memory generalization, I can see that there are 3 test files here. And then memory intrusion has 3 test files, 3 PsychoPy files, and 1 PDF of the notes. And I'm just going to open that and make sure it's right. And it is. Then I'm going to make sure that all the physiology data is there. So I'm going to click into Physio, and I'm going to make sure there's a characters file, conditioning file, an extinction file, a Halloween test file, training, generalization, okay. Then I'm going to see about the Wazi and Wyatt. And I can see that these are the template files, so these files need to be scanned and uploaded. So I'm going to put that this is incomplete. Scan and upload, scored, copy. Same here. Okay, now for the drive. So this is all of the information that has identifying things like audio and video recordings. So we cannot put these on line. So you have to get the BabLab drive from the filing cabinet from file 1 tier 1. And then you're gonna plug it in to your computer. Then when that comes up, you're going to enter the password. And then you're going to go into this ID file, studies, mind, brain, body, and then you're going to look for the participant that you're currently doing, and you're just going to make sure that these files exist. So you are going to make sure that there's an audio KSATS file, which I can see right there. There's a video file. There is there's a first recall for memory gen, and there's a second recall for memory gen. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for these, so all of these are good. Then I can see there's a WASI and a Wyatt audio. Okay, so now you're done with that drive. So now you're going to actually check some things on REDCap. And this is really the most important part because this is a part that we don't do during the initial data entry because this is already done by the participants automatically. So we really want to make sure that they're getting the surveys that they're supposed to get, and also that they are filling everything out and making sure that everything's complete. Okay, so really the first thing I'm going to do for this participant is actually check and see what questionnaires they're supposed to get. So I'm going to go to the Dropbox, and I'm going to go to the Mind Brain Body Study protocol for questionnaires, and I'm going to open this questionnaire summary. And this questionnaire summary tells me every questionnaire that a specific participant should receive. So I know that this participant is 9 and female and biological. So they're going to receive all of these questionnaires in their child session, and then their parents are going to receive all of these questionnaires. They won't receive this one because the child is 9. They will receive this one, and because the child's biological, they won't receive either of these questionnaires, which apply to adopted children and internationally adopted children. This one applies to all adopted children, whether international or domestic, and this one is just international. And then the parents are going to receive all these questionnaires to do during the session, and then these two to do at home. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is, since this participant is 9, I'm going to go ahead and put NA for all of these questionnaires because this participant was too young to do those. So I'm going to scroll to REDCap, and I'm going to go to the child portion, and I'm going to scroll all the way until I get to the IPPA, which will be the last. Okay, so since IPPA is the last one that a 9-year-old will do, I'm going to just go ahead and put that there. Then I'm going to go to the parent part and I'm going to put that they will not get the CSSI because their child is too old for them to answer that one, or old enough to answer it themselves rather, and will not get the FCI or the IAI. Okay, but they're gonna get all the rest of them, so I'm just gonna leave that. Then I'm gonna go all the way back to the beginning of the REDCap section, and I'm going to close that and now start checking the REDCap data. Okay, so I can see that that's completely filled out, so that looks good. Then we're getting rid of some of this stuff, so the things I really care about are just the session checklists. And this looks not completely completed, so it looks like someone started to fill it out and then didn't finish, so I'm gonna put incomplete. Then the parent one, I can already see there's nothing there, so I'm gonna put then here I can see that the child didn't do any of the questionnaires, and I was here for this session, so I know that the child was taking home all the questionnaires because they didn't get through them in the session. But I would make sure to go back to the lab session child checklist and just see the notes, and I can see here that it says we'll finish questionnaires at home, so I'm gonna go ahead and put incomplete for these. And I'm going to do this for all of the child questionnaires. But one thing I am going to do actually is go through this while I'm doing this, because I want to be sure that the questionnaires that they were supposed to get will be delivered to them at home. So when I click into it, if I see all of these things here, that means that this is working properly. So I'm just going to do that for each one. And I can see that this is going to provide some skip logic when they complete it, so that's fine. This looks good. And this is really important so that we can make sure that these questionnaires are displaying properly for each participant. Okay, so now I'm just gonna make sure that these ones are not displaying. And it looks like it is, so this might be a problem with this survey, so that's actually really good to know. I'm going to make a note of that. Then I'm just gonna go back and make doubly sure that this one, yeah, it looks like this one is only supposed to be for the youngest at 13, so that's not as much of a problem as if it didn't give them one, but that definitely needs to be fixed. So It's good that we saw that. Okay. And then I'm gonna look at the KSATs. I'm actually gonna put incomplete there too, just so that we know that there's something that needs to be done with that. So this is how it looks when the participant doesn't get a survey because of their age or gender. So this is what this one should look like, so that's good. And I'm just gonna check the PEDS. That looks good as well, PSQI. And this is a new one that we haven't added yet, so that's fine for this because we won't have this one for anyone except for the participant we just ran. Okay, so then I'm gonna see if these were entered and these were entered. And I'm just gonna double check that they're exactly the same as they are on the sheet. And it looks like they are, so that's all good. Then I'm just gonna have a look at the memory intrusion notes and make sure that these are also the same as they are on the sheet. And that looks good as well. Okay, these were actually taking off, so no need to do these. And I'll go ahead and delete those. Delete those after. Just know that we don't have to upload any of these files anymore. We're just going to keep them on the Dropbox. So then you can go to WASI, and I can see that this hasn't been entered. And I think it has been scored, or at least partially scored, so I'm going to put incomplete. And then this one looks like it's been partially scored as well. Okay, so now I'm going to move to the part where the parent was answering questions. So I'm going to go to the lab parent proxy. And that looks like it's been completely filled. This also looks good. And if you're not sure what these questionnaires are supposed to look like at first, it might be a good idea to have a look at the questionnaires on, for instance, like if you think, oh wow, this questionnaire looks short, maybe it didn't show up as it was supposed to. So I could go into studies. And this is the WB. And then I can see that it's quite short, so this is fine. And that could be useful just if you think that something looks off or something doesn't really look like it should. It might be a good idea to take a look at what the questionnaire is supposed to look like. And then after a while, you'll kind of know what they're supposed to look like, and you won't really need to check. And this one's not totally complete, but it's pretty much complete, especially since this was an other question. So since we will retake this BMC screening before they do an MRI scan, I'm not going to worry too much about that. So I'm just going to mark that as complete. Okay, so it's just obviously the problem. It showed it to the parent instead of to the child, so the age must be entered wrong. So I'm going to put here that this was displayed, and then I'm just going to put this so that we know to check on this. Making sure that those are displaying properly, and that looks good. And see, this was a biological child, so they didn't get that. They didn't get that. And this looks good too. And this just, since she said no here and here, it can kind of, it makes sense that she didn't have any other things to write in. So I'm going to mark this as complete. This one's a little bit more, I'm not sure. I'm thinking probably that the child is not on any medication, but this is actually a good thing to note. We should probably put a checkbox here, just if they're not on any medication, to check that, just so that we can be extra sure. And this looks complete, and this is one that does some different skip logic based on whether they're male or female. And so then, since this one was female, I can see that these female appropriate questions are being shown, and there's also some male appropriate ones. So that could be an important thing to check too, just to be extra sure that it's showing the right survey. And then this wasn't given because we haven't put this on REDCap yet, so I'm just going to put that it wasn't given. And then I can see that this was filled out. Okay, now I'm going to go to the parent self portion. going to see if the child has completed any of the home tests yet. This was a relatively recent participant, so I don't expect that they have. So I can see here that none of this has been attempted, but I am just going to click into it and make sure that it's displaying properly. And if the counterbalance isn't entered into the participants lab session checklist on REDCap, then these won't show up. So it's really important to make sure that these are going to show up when they do click into it. And that looks all good, but I'm going to put incomplete because they haven't done it yet. And this long test, actually, we are not giving this one anymore. This was just for the first few participants, so it's going to be NA going forwards for every participant except for the first 6. Any before the 6th and before will be the long test, and that's in place of this one, and then it will be the opposite for everyone after. Okay, and then we haven't received their kit yet, so we don't have this either. And we're actually not gonna upload that anymore. We're just gonna save it. So you don't need to worry about that. Okay, and I really, that's pretty much it, but I really encourage you guys to go through all the questionnaires, not only for yourself so that you can see what they're all about, but for us so that we can like triple check that everything's displaying as it's supposed to, because there's different versions for different ages. And so as you're going through the participants, it would just be really helpful if you can make sure that not only is the survey that it's supposed to be, that all of the questions are included, that we haven't skipped any questions by accident, and that all of the correct versions are displaying to the participant. Yeah, okay, so I will be assigning you guys participants to do this week. And